Live happy and healthy, my brother. Live happy and healthy, my sister.
Good day and welcome to this edition of Healthier, Older and Happier. Saturday, 8th March 2025 was International Women's Day, and we are dedicating this edition to you and the women that you love. She shops around for the best yarns and cottons and enjoys knitting and sewing. She's like a trading ship that sails to faraway places and brings back exotic surprises. She's up before dawn preparing breakfast for her family and organizing her day. She looks over a field and buys it. Then with the money she's put aside, she plants a garden. First thing in the morning, she dresses for work, rolls up her sleeve, eager to get started. She senses the worth of her work and is in no hurry to call it quits for the day. She's skilled in the crafts of home and hearth, diligent in homemaking. She's quick to assist anyone in need, reaches out to help the poor. She doesn't worry about her family when it snows. Their winter clothes are all mended and ready to wear. She makes her own clothing and dresses in colorful linens and silks. Her husband is greatly respected when he deliberates with the city fathers. She designs gowns and sells them, brings the sweaters she knits to the dress shops. Her clothes are well made and elegant, and always she faces tomorrow with a smile. Does that sound like the woman you love? Industrious and resourceful, strong and courageous, wise and generous, a woman that fears the Lord. You may not be able to tick off all these characteristics for the women in your lives. In this edition, we will be talking about some of the health-related reasons why many women are not able to fit into this description that was put forward by King Solomon about 3,000 years ago. The greatest causes of premature death and disability in women all over the world are non-communicable diseases. By this, we mean diseases that are not infectious. Leading among these are cardiovascular diseases, stroke, respiratory diseases, dementia, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, arthritis, depression, and cancers. In low and medium income countries, the burden of disease is further complicated by the coexistence of infections, malnutrition, and pregnancy-related causes of disease and death in women. Many families around the world, and especially in low and medium income countries, often have to weep over the tragedy of women who lose their lives in the course of pregnancy and trying to bring forth children. According to the World Health Organization, every 2 minutes, a woman dies from pregnancy and childbirth-related complications. Unfortunately, we don't know as much about the diseases and disabilities that ail women as we should, and there are several reasons for this. According to a recent report, for every one woman who is diagnosed of having a disease, there are 4 other women with diseases that remain undiagnosed. A report from Denmark showed that diseases are diagnosed much later in women than they are in men. It is common knowledge that women generally live longer than men. However, the health span of women is definitely shorter than that for men. A lot of women live a large part of their productive lives with disability. Indeed, on the average, about 9 years of the productive lives of women are spent living with disabilities as a result of chronic diseases. When it comes to dementia, more women are affected by dementia than men in a ratio of 100 to 69. It is also well established that fewer women have access to quality healthcare than men. We know that most of the solutions to these many challenges that women face in respect of their health and access to quality health care lie in the purview of governments, non-governmental organizations, scientists, academia. But there is a lot that you can do for yourself and for the women in your lives, the women that you love. And the focus of today's episode is to highlight some of the very simple things that you can do. And it is best remembered by using the term know your numbers. Know your numbers. We will focus on 6 numbers today. Some of these numbers we have addressed in previous episodes. And if you are listening to this on radio, I would advise that you please go to our YouTube channel and listen and watch the previous episodes that relate to the numbers that we'll be talking about subsequently. Number 1, blood pressure. Number 2, blood sugar. 3, body mass index. 4, waist circumference. 5, cholesterol levels. And 6, hours of sleep. Regarding blood pressure, in the episode that was titled Pre-Hypertension, a Window of Opportunity, we spent quite a while talking about blood pressure. For today, I will just remind you that normal blood pressure is blood pressure where the upper number, the systolic blood pressure, is less than 120, and the lower number, the diastolic blood pressure, is less than 80. So normal blood pressure is blood pressure that is less than 120 over 80 millimeter of mercury. When the systolic blood pressure is between 120 and 129, or the diastolic blood pressure is between 80 and 89, that is pre-hypertension. And when the blood pressure is consistently equal to or greater than 140 over 90, that is hypertension. The next number that you should know is your blood sugar. Blood sugar is measured using a simple equipment called a glucometer. It is available in shops, just like you can buy the equipment for measuring your blood pressure. You can also buy the equipment for measuring your blood sugar, and you can be taught how to use it. Normal blood sugar should be between 70 and 110 milligram per deciliter after an overnight fast before 9 a.m. in the morning. That is called the fasting blood sugar. If the blood sugar after an overnight fast is between 110 and 125 milligram per deciliter, that is in the range of pre-diabetes. And if the fasting blood sugar is 126 and above, it is diabetes mellitus. The third number that you need to be aware of is your body mass index. In a previous episode, we talked about obesity. In fact, that was the immediate last episode when we talked about the risk of obesity from excessive amounts of added sugars. And we mentioned in that episode that body mass index has to do with a figure that is derived from comparing your weight with your height. So today we will go in more detail. So you need to know your weight in kilogram. You need to know your height in meter. Then that number that is your height, multiply it by itself, and then divide your weight by the answer that you get. So for example, if you stand on a scale and you weigh 70 kilograms and you measure your height, and your height is 1.7 meters, or let's say 1.6 meters. If you multiply 1.6 by 1.6, you will get 2.56. Now, if you divide your weight, which is 70 kilogram, by 2.56, the number you will get is 27.34. What does this mean? Your body mass index is normal if the number you get is between 18.5 and 24.9. If the number you get when you divide your weight by the square of your height is less than 18.5, it means you are underweight. If you do this calculation and the number you get is between 25 and 29.9, it means you are overweight. So in the calculation we just did, that person whose body mass index is 27.34 is overweight. If you do this calculation and the number you get is 30 or above, then you are obese. If you do this calculation and the number you get is 40 and above, then you are morbidly or pathologically or dangerously obese. The fourth number we'll talk about today is the waist circumference. This is easy to do. Before we proceed with waist circumference, I would like to say something about the body mass index in older persons. We often use the same reference ranges for older persons as we do for younger persons. And recall that in a previous episode, I mentioned that the United Nations cutoff for who an older person is 60 years and above. For people who are 60 and above, we are more liberal with the weight. In older persons, we shouldn't be using the same body mass index reference ranges as we do for younger persons. Remember, please, that an older person by the United Nations cutoff is someone who is aged 60 years and above. It is acceptable for people who are at this stage of their lives to have their body mass indices between 25 and 29.9. Indeed, the research evidence shows that when we use lower reference ranges, the outcomes are usually worse for older persons. So the fourth number we need to talk about today is waist circumference. What you need to do this is get a tape, stand up, put the tape around the middle of your body using your navel or your belly button as the landmark. So ensure that that tape is horizontal, that is, it's not bent either way, either up or downwards when you put it around your body. And then as you breathe out, immediately after you breathe out, mark where the tape, the two ends of the tape or one end of the tape touches the other end, and that point is your waist circumference. Now, for men, the waist circumference should be 94 centimeters or less. For women, the waist circumference should be 80 centimeters or less. If your waist circumference is more than what it should be, it points to a risk for cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diseases of the heart and blood vessels, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, and all the complications that go with those. So when we talk about the waist circumference, there's another measurement that is like the body mass index. So for example, you can talk about your weight, but it is more reflective of how much mass you have when your weight is related to your height in the body mass index. In the same way, we can relate your waist circumference in a metric that involves the ratio between your waist circumference and your hip circumference. But we don't want to make this complex. It is good enough for you to know the numbers that have to do with your waist circumference: 94 and less for men and 80 and less for women. The measurement of number 5 number, which is cholesterol, is not as straightforward. It's not something you can just sit in your bedroom and measure. So you might need to discuss with your doctor about checking your cholesterol level. Another measure, which is the 6th measure we're talking about today, is how many hours of sleep you are getting every day. Recall that in a previous episode, the episode in which we talked about rest, we mentioned that every adult needs to have 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day. So let's take a breath and ask, do you know these numbers? If you don't, you can start today. As you can see, it's simple to do. Next question. So the women in your life, the women that you know and love, your mother, your wife, your sister, your friends, do they know these numbers? I believe that you can be that vanguard who will advocate for their health promotion behaviors. And one of the ways to get started on this journey is to know your numbers. By knowing these numbers and what they mean and what they portend if they are not normal, we will be coming to terms with some of the biggest risk factors for premature death and disability, not only in women, but also in men. I hope that we are able to reflect and take action regarding our blood pressure numbers, blood sugar, body mass index, waist circumference, cholesterol, number of sleep hours, in the hope that as we do this, we will become more intentional about preventing disease, detecting diseases early, and ensuring that you and the woman you love has access to quality interventions that will not only promote their health, prevent disease, but also enable them to have early diagnosis and treatment so that they can make the most of their productive years and indeed their entire lives. I hope that you have found this episode useful. It's my pleasure to have this session with you again and again, week after week. I appreciate the feedback, and I would encourage that you go to our website at aituaje.com, aituaje.com, for more exclusive content. You can also connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Music. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.
Live happy and healthy, my brother. Live happy and healthy, my sister.